All right, today we're going to talk about net neutrality. Because of technical difficulties, we couldn't have this class on Tuesday. And because of the difficulty, I uploaded the material just hours before this class. So just sit back and listen, and you can just do the reading after the class. What's important is getting the big idea, how the internet works, and what net neutrality means, and what net neutrality is not, because a lot of people abuse that term in different settings. So, all right, what is net neutrality? The network has to be, let me just turn this on. It's the rule that the network must be neutral to all types of data and all types of applications. Neutral so that it must not discriminate among different types of data and applications. So the network should not block certain data because, for instance, it's anti-government, or should not block data because it comes from YouTube as opposed to Africa TV, which is a kind of a Korean counterpart to YouTube. The network should be neutral whether the data is composed of Microsoft Word files or Hangul files, right? Should not discriminate whether it is an Excel spreadsheet as opposed to other types of spreadsheet data. Should not, when it says no discrimination, it means no discrimination, not just in terms of blocking or blocking certain data and letting other data pass through, but also slowing down some data as opposed to other data, or accelerating certain data as opposed to other data, right? All of that is discrimination, is to be banned under the net neutrality rule. Now, if you think about it, it's odd, right? If you go to restaurants, all the restaurants have signs that say, we reserve right to refuse services to any customer. But the network operators, okay, the ones providing the physical link between the computers, are prohibited from picking and choosing their customers or favoring or disfavoring certain customers as opposed to the other. Now, to understand why we are imposing this neutrality, non-discrimination rule only on the network, we have to talk about, to discuss why, let's talk about what it is first. Now, it applies only to the operators providing the network for data traffic that constitutes the internet. It doesn't apply to any other network, okay? For instance, let's say you want to create a network of volunteers working for the homeless, right? Network of students. You are not imposed any neutrality rule. You can pick and choose who will join your network. Okay? I mean, you can do interviews of the students who want to join the network and discriminate accordingly based on their background, based on their commitment. That's fine. And also, it doesn't apply to, I mean, even if it is a network, even if it is a network of computers, if it's a private network, it's not imposed net neutrality rule either. For instance, Korea University has its own network, right? And that network is connected to the internet, but before it's connected to the internet, within that network, it is private. Now, among the users of Korea University network, the Korea University can freely discriminate who can get on and who cannot. For instance, some universities in the past, not now, in the past, banned processing video files because the college students were spending too much time downloading illegal movie files and also watching them, and spending too much time watching them instead of studying. So some universities just banned all movie files from their private network. Now, that's not a net neutrality violation. The operator of a private network can choose to discriminate not just who gets on the network, but also what kind of data is processed through the network. Depending on the foundational purpose of the network. There must be a reason why that certain institution, Korea University, or hospital can have its own network, right? Library can have its own network of computers that it makes available to the users of the library. A big church may have its own network of computers as well. And those private networks can freely discriminate different types of data and different types of users. It applies only to the operators of the networks that constitute the internet. Okay? So, Korea University network, it is a private network. Now, it becomes a part of the internet when it makes a connection to local network operator, KT or SK, KT or SKT or LGU plus, or there are smaller broadband providers as well. A big customer like Korea University probably has a connection with probably 3 or 4 network providers. Now, those network providers, they are part of the internet. They make the internet because they provide connection between, say, Korea University, the Korean government network, Yonsei University network, or individual computers scattered across the country, and they ultimately are responsible for connecting your home computers with somebody else's home computer in South Africa or London, Paris, right? So there are network providers who are selling the services of making the worldwide connection available to you, or your university, or other private networks. So the ones claiming to provide the global connection, the ones who are charging money for making available that global connection are the network providers that are subject to the net neutrality rule. Okay. Now, the idea is not to treat people equally, but treat data equally, right? So let's say I have one megabyte of data to send, and my friend has 10 megabytes to send. Now, if the data is treated equally, whose data will be delivered faster? Whose data, whose data will be, delivery of whose data will be completed earlier than the other? I have 1 meg, my friend has 10 meg. If the network treats the data equally, not the people equally, but the data equally, whose data will be done with the delivery earlier than the other? Me or my friend? I have 1 meg, my friend has 10 megabytes of data. My data will be done faster, right? Because if the network operator treats my data with my friend's data equally, because my friend has 10 times more data, it should take 10 times more time for the operator to finish delivering my friend's data. Make sense? Yes? All right. So, just to give you an idea of when the network operator may discriminate, I'm going to talk about this case from 1930s. It's not a net neutrality case because this is about telephone network, not computer network. Okay? This telephone network. Who invented telephone? Bell, right? And there was a time when there was only one telephone company in the whole world, and it was called AT&T. And it was based on the patent that Bell had on telephone. That's why there was only one telephone company in the whole world. Now, AT&T provided telephones to all households in the US and the whole world for a period of time. And there was one other company that invented this device called Hush Your Phone. And in what you see on the picture here. So what it does is, you cannot see it very well, right? Okay, all right. Okay. Now this, in early days, the telephone looked like this, right? This is the this is the earphone, right? Right here. This is the earphone. So you take it, you pick it up, put against your ear to listen, and there is a microphone right there that you speak to. Okay, so if this is a telephone, you pick up the earphone and speak into the telephone, right? Speak into this this pillar. Okay, so and you had to like stand right in front of the phone, and if there were people around, you could not speak privately, right? So this small company invented Hush Your Phone, just as, small box that prevents your voice from, traveling or spreading to areas other than the phone itself. When you are talking on the phone, the only place your sound wave or the sound waves constituting voice to go into is just the telephone, right? Not anywhere else. If it goes anywhere else, other people may overhear your conversation. You don't want that. So hush your phone is, it's not an electrical device. It is just a box that has a hole that you can speak into, and the sound waves constituting your voice most of them will just go into the telephone instead of going anywhere else. And hush your phone boxes began to sell well because people wanted privacy. What did AT&T do? AT&T threatened the customers to stop using hush your phone and that they'll stop providing the telephone service if they use hush your phone. Why did they do that? Well, they had a monopoly on the telephone market, and they wanted to make more money by selling different types of telephones that have different types of, different levels of privacy, using different kinds of technology. And AT&T was prevented from making that extra money because now hush phone eroded the market that AT&T was going to cover. What do you think about this? You all have your smartphones, and you have your hearing devices, right? You have your earphones or headphones. One day, let's say Samsung or Apple says, oh, we're not going to sell the phones to people using certain types of earphones. You are using an earphone right there, right? Let's say Apple threatens you not to use that earphone. How would you feel about that? If Samsung says you are to use our smartphone only in conjunction with earphones that Samsung manufactures, how would you feel about that? You'll feel bad, right? So that's the thinking. I mean, that's where the thinking of net neutrality comes from, right? Let's talk about the real net neutrality cases. Okay. So Madison River versus Vonage, Verizon was a bad boy. Already had 2 net neutrality violations, and there was one with AT&T. Let's look at them one at a time. Madison River Communications provided both ordinary telephone network, but also computer network. Okay? So if you live in the area covered by Madison Communications, you'll get internet from Madison, and you will also get telephone, ordinary voice telephone from Madison as well. Okay? Now, this company called Vonage provided what's called a voice over IP service, VoIP. Repeat after me, VoIP. Okay, repeat after me again. VoIP. Voice over IP. IP here means Internet Protocol. This is better known as Internet phone. So your communication, your voice, or your partner's voice does not come through the telephone network, but come through the computer network, the internet. That's why it's called a voice over IP, and you can talk to your partner like you are talking on the phone. And Madison in 2004 blocked all the data traffic constituting voice over IP, including the data traffic of Vonage. Why do you think that they did that? Why do you think Madison, they sold the connection. They sold the connection to the computer network, the internet. They sold, they charged $30, $40 a month to their customers saying, now you are connected to the internet. But then Madison blocked all the data traffic that will be used for internet phone. They will be used for voice over IP. While they let, YouTube videos come through, Gmail come through, Facebook come through, but they blocked just traffic, data traffic of this small company called Vonage. Why do you think that they did that? Any idea? Hint, Madison was providing two services, not just computer network service, but also telephone network service. Yes?
They blocked in order to cause Vonage to get out of the market.
Okay, why is that good for them?
They can increase their market share.
Market share in which market? The computer network, telephone network? Telephone network, yes. If more and more people use internet phone for voice communication with their friends and families, they'll use less and less of the telephone service that they were selling, right? So to protect their telephone revenue, they blocked the voice over IP traffic in the computer network. And FCC said that is net neutrality violation because Madison Communication was discriminating against the data, traffic that constitutes voice communication as opposed to other types of data. Okay? All right. Verizon, back in 2007, used to have a service where people could do fundraising through text messages. So, but to set up the service, they had to enter into a contract with the Verizon, and Verizon made available this this fundraising over text message service to different politicians who needed to do fundraising and different companies who needed to do fundraising and other nonprofit organizations, NGOs, that needed to do fundraising, but did not make their service available to this pro-choice abortion group. Pro-choice is the camp that protects women's rights as opposed to the value of the life of fetus. This is the group that promotes women's right to have abortion despite the value of the fetus's life. So, it was not clear why Verizon refused to make the service available to this pro-choice group, probably because this abortion issue was very controversial and it was very divisive and politically very sensitive. But then again, they did enter into fundraising contracts with Mitt Romney or Hillary Clinton. So probably political sensitivity is not the only reason, but we don't know why. But what is important for us is that they discriminate against the data traffic that had pro-choice content, right? All that had something related to abortion issues. They accepted other data into their, text messaging fundraising services, but they didn't accept the same from the abortion group. Okay. The next case is again with Verizon. Does anybody know what tethering is? Tethering. Does anybody not know what tethering is? You don't know. Okay, all right. How many of you have used the internet? Or how many of you used notebooks to access the internet, but because the notebook didn't have a separate internet connection, you connected to your mobile phone? You have done that. Okay, then you know what tethering is, right? Tethering means, tethering in English means just, weaving something together. So through tethering, you can connect your notebook computer not through a wire, but wirelessly through the mobile internet service that you have on your smartphone. Okay? So, yes, you can do internet on your smartphone, but also through this internet connection that your mobile phone has, you can also do internet on your notebook computer as well, once it is tethered. Yes? Understood? Also, okay, well, there are a more prevalent way of doing tethering is at your home or at school as well. You can connect to the wireless, you can connect to Korea University's Wi-Fi service through your mobile phone, right? Now, to do that, Korea University will get, one line, right? Korea University gets many lines, but Korea University buys the landline internet connections, and then they set up antennas. We call them access points because that's where people can access that's the points through which people can access the internet. So probably there are a couple of Wi-Fis in this lecture hall as well. And when you pick up your phone, and if you go to settings, you can check the Wi-Fi signals, right? Okay, I see like three, okay, it keeps changing. 2, 3 Wi-Fi signals, and accessing the internet through the network service or network connection that somebody else has purchased, that's also called tethering. So tethering is beneficial for a lot of people, because even if one person has internet connection, it can allow 255 other people to use the internet at the same time. Of course, I mean, if all 256 people use it at the same time, there will be a bottleneck. The data will not go back and forth fast. But theoretically, you can attach that many devices into one internet connection. So even if Korea University shuts down Wi-Fi now, right? If anybody, has a mobile internet service, probably all of you do, if you have a smartphone, because that's the definition of a smartphone, right? Smartphone is smart because you can access the internet through your phone. If anybody has a smartphone, all of us in this classroom can use internet through that phone's by tethering into that one phone's mobile internet service. Okay. Now, Verizon somehow had the technology to figure out whether somebody else was tethering to the customer's internet service. Okay? And cut off the connection if other people tethered, if people other than the Verizon customer tether their devices. Why do you think that Verizon will do that? Why would Verizon ban tethering? Why would they make it difficult for the customers? I mean, supposedly the customer is the king, right? Why would they make it difficult for their customers to make the internet connection available to their friends and families through tethering? Yes?
Then other people would be buying it.
Right. If they make it difficult to tether, then other people will also have to buy from Verizon, right? But let's look at the issue from the perspective of the customer who already bought certain data, right? Let's say I bought 10 gigabyte per month to use. And hey, I know that I cannot use all that up. So when my friends come to my room, I let my friends use it. Of course, I can just give my phone to them and they can use my phone, but then it will not be fun, right? Other people touching your smartphone is never fun. And you cannot do things simultaneously with your friends, right? So instead of using all 10 gigabyte by myself, I let my family's little friends use it at the same time. Okay? And it's the data that I already paid for. Would you feel bad if you are prevented from using the data for other people? It's the data you bought, right? So, I mean, you can think of it as like water and electricity. You get water at your dormitory room or at your apartment, right? What if the water company says, only you can drink that water? You cannot make available that water to your visitors. Horrible, right? If you think that data is like water, then you should have the same horrible feeling if Verizon bans tethering. So, Verizon, again, was found guilty of net neutrality violation because they, again, discriminated the data coming from tethered devices as opposed to the devices owned by their customers. They are not supposed to do that under net neutrality rule. Now, one remaining argument that Verizon had was that, we have, there's a limitation on the network capacity, and if too many people use the data, we cannot handle all the traffic. Okay? That's why we are limiting the number of devices that can be attached. Or they're not just limiting, they're just banning attaching any additional device other than the devices registered with Verizon. Because we wanted to protect the amount of traffic that goes through our network. Okay? That was Verizon's argument. But there is something wrong with that because attaching different devices does not increase the total amount of traffic. Because if you bought 10 gig, if the total amount of traffic created or processed through your device and your friend's device, your friend's tethered devices, reaches 10 gig, the network no longer processes the data. Okay? Yes, if 10 people use it at the same time, yes, it will naturally slow down, but if 10 people are willing to just enjoy the internet at slow speed, but simultaneously, right, what right does Verizon have to splitting up the data among different devices as opposed to using it through just one device? Okay, so this is again another net neutrality violation. 2012. Okay, how many of you have used FaceTime? Apple's FaceTime. Okay, do you guys like it? When do you guys use it? Long distance relationships. With your families. I use that a lot with my kids whenever I go abroad. Facebook is FaceTime, I think, is a great app, and AT&T blocked FaceTime and just the FaceTime traffic back in 2012. Again, arguing that FaceTime is putting a lot of burden on their network. And AT&T said, if you purchase a more expensive plan, more expensive data plan, for those users, they'll open up FaceTime. What do you think about that? This network operator says, oh, if too many people use FaceTime, then it will put too much strain on the network because they are the ones, carrying the data, okay? And to reduce the strain, we will ban FaceTime. We'll allow other data to go through, but will not allow FaceTime data to go through. What will be your answer to that? What's wrong with that explanation? Yes?
It's not a matter of data, but revenue.
Okay. Oh, so you are assuming that AT&T also provides a regular phone service, and that people will use FaceTime as opposed to regular phone.
The more money they get, the more data they'll have available. But it works, but I don't think there's a fixed amount of data. There's a limit to that.
Okay. Okay, well, you talked about two. One was that they're actually protecting, that they're doing this to protect the integrity of the traffic is a lie. What they're really trying to do is protect the voice revenue or the telephone revenue, because if people do FaceTime, they'll not use telephone. Okay, that's. And yes, if you are talking to somebody overseas, the amount of money that you will spend on your phone bill will be like 100 times, 1,000 times more than the money you will spend on FaceTime. Yes, for sure. So that is one argument, which is valid because, yes, although I didn't tell you, AT&T in 2012 was, well, as it has been and it still is, providing telephone service as well as the internet service, as well as the computer network service, right? Now, the other thing you said is that there's a limit anyway on the data usage. Yeah, you're right. Let's say I have a 5 gigabyte of data per month that you can use, and if I want to use all of the 5 gigabyte for FaceTime as opposed to watching YouTube, isn't that the customer's right? Right? Why are people buying the internet connection? Well, for freedom, right? Freedom to talk to people in all parts of the world, freedom to talk to people at different levels of privacy. If you use KakaoTalk, you can just you can create different rooms with different members, with different friends. So you can choose to talk only to some of them, right? As opposed to talking to just one person, which will happen when you are just using regular phone. And you can talk to, instead of talking to, like if you talk now in the classroom, you will have to talk to all 100 people at the same time. But if you just set up a chat room, you can just talk to selected 30, 40 people or 20 people, whatever number that you want to talk to. That is the freedom that the internet gives you. And if you are prohibited from using FaceTime or using the data for FaceTime while you are allowed to use the data for other labs, then you will feel also bad. And your sense of injustice is the bedrock of your sense of injustice at that kind of treatment is the bedrock of the net neutrality rule. So these are the net neutrality cases. Now, do you understand what net neutrality is? Okay, that the network should not discriminate, right? Oops. But why should the network operators not have to refuse or not have the right to refuse customers? Why should they not be allowed to serve only the customers they like, to maximize their profits, right? As we were talking about real net neutrality cases, we kept making comparison. We kept making analogy to like water, right? I mean, if you buy a certain amount of water coming down the pipes, you should be able to cook ramen, you should be able to give to your friends, you should be able to take shower with it. So, data users should be able to do the same thing with their data. That's the analogy you made, but why is the internet service, why is computer network service not like, restaurant service? Or even banks. If you want to make a loan from the bank, they'll interview you. They'll ask for your financial background, they'll ask for your employment record, and they'll discriminate on the basis of your financial ability and financial record. Why shouldn't the internet service like restaurant business or banking business, as opposed to water, electricity, or gas? What do you think about that? Why should the internet and gas, water, electricity are called common carriers? Repeat after me, common carriers. Common carrier is a legal concept that applies to, the providers of gas and water, electricity, and they are legally under an obligation not to discriminate among different users or among different usage. Okay? So, they have to provide water, gas, electricity as long as there is somebody paying for it. For instance, in Korea, you will see many labor unions taking over their employers' factories or businesses for a labor strike. It's not their place. The labor unions or the workers don't own that place, but they are just taking it over. One easy way to kick them out of the strike will be cut off the electricity, right? And who do you think was paying for the electricity bill for that place? The employer, right? But if the labor unions, as long as they continue to pay the bills, the electricity company, the power company cannot cut off the power. They have to continue providing. They are under legal obligation to continue to provide electricity. Same thing with electricity going into, residential places. You all have leases with your, landlord, right? At your apartments. And let's say you are, badly mistreated during the term, that at the end of the term, you don't want to leave, right? Or, okay, I'll make it more honorable for you. Let's say the landlord, just terminated the contract unilaterally, thinking that you haven't paid your bill, you haven't paid your rent, and you think that you have paid the rent, right? Now, you need time to figure out, sort that out, but instead of sorting it out, the landlord becoming greedy to receive another tenant into that room, just cut off the electricity, trying to force you out of the room, right? Or all you need to do is call the power company and tell them that you will pay for the electricity bill. Then they are under legal obligation to provide the electricity. Actually, it's against the law for the landlord to cut off the electricity as well, but that's another story. What's more important is the power company's obligation to provide electricity to anyone willing to pay for it. Okay? These are common carriers. What other common carriers are there? Buses. Okay? Subways. Airlines. They never ask you why you are getting on the bus, train, or the plane. They are not supposed to discriminate where you are going. Well, they'll end up discriminating by where you are going, because then they'll have different, buses and trains. But they never ask you why you are going there. Okay. So these are common carriers, and there are laws that protect customers' right not to be discriminated by these common carriers. Now, restaurants are not common carriers. Banks are not common carriers. Schools are not common carriers. They can pick and choose their students. They reserve their right to refuse to provide their educational services to all people. The question is whether the internet is also a common carrier, or is it more like restaurants and banks? What do you think about that? Should the internet be treated like common carrier, or should it be treated like restaurants and banks? Yes?
It should be treated like a common carrier because no one owns it.
No one owns it.
People can own restaurants, people can own banks, but no one can own either.
That's a good argument. Actually, that's something I never thought about. Actually, that's something not many people have thought about. Yes. Internet is the aggregate of all the computers around the world connected to one another. not connected directly, but connected through other computers, right? Then shouldn't, then even if you are SK, right, even if you are the biggest network operator within Korea, you are not just providing service within their network. Well, even if you are SK, you are not providing service only through your network. When you are charging people money for connection to SKT service, they are selling connection not just to their network, but to the global network of computers that exist outside Korea, outside SKT's network. Okay. Usually water company and gas company, they all own their network. So even on them, we are imposing common carrier obligation. What you're saying is we have an even stronger reason for imposing common carrier obligation, unique reason for imposing common carrier obligations on the internet service providers. That's good, that's good. Any other reason that we should treat the internet service like water, gas, public transportation so that the customers will not be discriminated? If you think more about gas, water, and electricity, you may be able to have clearer positions on the internet as well. So let's say you are, getting water at your home, and what if, water company starts providing priority service for, whoever pays more, right? So rich people will get cleaner water and more water than those who are not paying as much. How would you feel about that? Or people who are paying more can get more stable electricity than the ones who are not paying as much. Now, to answer that question, we should look at how the internet works. And now, I'm not a computer science major, I'm not a techie, and there are other people who have done better job of explaining how the internet works. So I'm going to ask you to watch a couple of videos, not couple, a little bit more, and that will help you understand how the internet works. Let me see. PC audio. All right.
video, I will explain you why Ethernet was actually developed, which is one of the protocols on the lowest level of the TCP/IP protocol stack. So let's assume we have one or more computers that...
Now, Ethernet is the physical link through which the computers are communicating with each other. Okay? So Ethernet is different from the internet, but Ethernet forms the physical foundation of how the computers connect to one another. So watch.
Communicate over a shared medium, and the key to this is the shared medium. They want to exchange information. And the smallest amount of information is, as we all know, 1 bit. So a naive approach that you could do in transferring this 1 bit is you could put a voltage on the cable. So if you do this, several problems arise. One problem that arises is how long do you actually have to put the voltage on the cable? Because if you just start putting the voltage on the cable, there will this electromagnetic wave starting to transfer or propagate through the cable, and you have to ask yourself how long it...
Sorry. Okay.
So in this video, I will explain you why Ethernet was actually developed.
Okay, now you can see. Come on.
So in this video, I will explain you why Ethernet was actually developed, which is one of the protocols on the low.
Okay. Okay, I guess we have to watch it on a smaller screen. Come on. All right, let me try again.
So in this video, I will explain you why Ethernet was actually developed, which is one of the protocols on the lowest level of the TCP/IP protocol stack. So let's say we have one or more computers that want to communicate over a shared medium, and the key to this is the shared medium. They want to exchange information. And the smallest amount of information is, as we all know, 1 bit. So a naive approach that you could do in transferring this 1 bit is you could put a voltage on the cable. So if you do this, several problems arise. One problem that arises is how long do you actually have to put the voltage on the cable? Because if you just start putting the voltage on the cable, there will this electromagnetic wave starting to transfer or propagate through the cable, and you have to ask yourself how long do I actually have to do this that others can measure this. Another problem that you would get is who is actually the sender of the data? So let's assume computer A sends a bit of data, at some point in time B receives the data, and then C receives the data, and everyone wonders who actually sent the data, and you cannot figure this out right away. A similar problem that occurs is actually who is the recipient of the data. So if A transfers data, B and C might not know if this data is actually for them. And of course, if you have a shared medium, another big problem is who's actually supposed to use the medium. So if A starts to transfer some data, at some point in time, B might also decide, hey, I want to use the medium and transfer some data. So now what's happening actually is that C receives corrupted data because it receives the data from A and B, and this is not good. And the last problem that can also occur when you transfer data is the data might get corrupted while being on the cable due to some external events. For example, if the cell phone is close to the cable, electromagnetic waves might change. The participants should be able to figure this out. And in order to solve all these problems, Ethernet as a protocol was developed. So what Ethernet can do is it can synchronize time intervals. Let's assume computer A sends data at, let's say, 10 megabits per second. And computer C has an interface which allows 100 megabits per second. Ethernet as a protocol will be able to synchronize the clocks between those two devices. Also, it can specify the recipient and the sender. So if A wants to send data for C, computer B will know, oh, this data is not for me, and computer C will know, oh, this data is for me. Also, Ethernet can detect corrupt data. So if data gets sent over the wire and it gets corrupted for some reason, computer C, who was supposed to be the recipient, knows, oh, this data is corrupt. And last but not least, Ethernet can also detect collisions. So if A and C starts to transfer data at the same point in time, they know something went wrong, and C, of course, gets corrupted data because the data is overlapped by two packages, and we will see in a later video how exactly this works. So I'm really tickled speaking, this video was helpful for you, you learned quite.
So here, we're not going to go into how Ethernet does it, but just want you to understand the minimum kind of physical setup of how the computers connect with one another. So you can see that they are actually using one line, right? There are no like 100,000 lines in the cable that's connecting your computers with one another, okay? And they are clocking it, they are like cutting the time cutting the time into so small bits that within 1 second, like tens of thousands of packets can fit into 1 second. And they have to cover every time one computer sends a message to the other computer, they have to cover the whole medium so that other computer's message does not corrupt it. That's why they have to cut the time into small, very small units so that all the computers can share it, right? All right. We have time for one more video, I think. Well, let's skip that one. Let's go to the other one here. Okay.
So as we have learned in the Ethernet part of the Web Science MOOC, there are quite some limitations of Ethernet. And one limitation is that the transfer distance should be shorter than 500 meters. So if you want to create a network that globally spans the world, obviously you cannot create just one big Ethernet network.
All right, so you just heard that, all right? Because you are, we didn't go into how Ethernet solves the 5 problems, but in solving the problems, they realized that local network cannot be more than 500 meters, right? So to create a network covering the whole globe, they cannot create just one network and have all the computers attached to it. There'll have to be local area networks. That's what's called a LAN, right? LAN. So there is a LAN covering Korea University, the length of which is less than 500 meters. Okay? And if the length is longer than 500 meters, then they have to create another LAN and attach to it. That's why it's called internet, because it's a network connected with other networks, right? So internet is not one network, but network of different networks. That's what he's trying to explain.
So as you can see here, you have geographically distributed networks, and those networks should be interconnected to each other. So you have really small networks that can just act locally in a certain region, and you want to interconnect those networks, as is discussed here on this visualization. So but Ethernet also has another limitation, and that was the problem with collisions. With the non-deterministic protocol, every time someone wants to send some data, he has to occupy the entire network. And if there are too many clients there, collisions will arise all the time, with the result that no one would be able to pass any message or pass any Ethernet frame anymore. So another requirement to create the internet was to have it decentralized. When the Americans decided to create this communication system, they mainly created this for military reasons. And they already knew that if you have one single spot where all communication goes through, it's very easy to attack this spot and then your entire communication doesn't work anymore. So we recall a picture of the network that we have connected in the beginning of the video, and you can see if a middle network like the 141 network fails, still all the networks would be at least with some route connected to each other. On the opposite, if you make this star-like topology where everything is connected to this one important network, if this one fails, you are in trouble, because then your system has no way of communicating anymore.
So that shows that explains why there is no center in the internet. Okay. Anyway, obviously we run out of time, but now the material is on Blackboard. Please do read them and watch the videos. There are 2 more videos that you have to watch, and we didn't finish the second one either. So you have to watch these videos, and I'll see you next Tuesday. I put on another announcement about the time of final exam. We'll have it a week before the final, normal final period. So look at the announcement carefully. You all looked at it, right? You know, December 8th, 9th, I forgot the exact date. But look at the announcement. And also form your teams. And if you have not formed the teams, talk to the TA. Talk to the TA, okay? And I think there is somebody substituting for TA today. Yes? Okay, all right. The one who raised the hands and made remarks, please go to her and register your name and whatever number, credentials with her. Thank you. I'll see you next Tuesday.